All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to week 2 of the pitch competition training. I know you guys are in the third week now of Entrepreneurs Change the World program. I can tell you this Wednesday and Thursday, I know you get a chance to participate in the P&G Signal event, as well as some of the workshops that Centrifuge is running. That's going to be a great 2 days of events. So make the time and get invested. I mean, you don't get to see people like Sheryl Sandberg from Facebook and Evan Stein, the founder of Snapchat, and all the other great speakers. That's a really special experience, as well as the workshops that Centrifuge is putting on is going to be terrific. So for the next 90 minutes between now and 11:30, we're going to go through solving problems and ideation tools. And once again, my name's Mike Halloran. Quick background for those who didn't meet me last week. I teach at Xavier. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've done 5 startups. I help volunteer at Ocean Accelerator. So I'm very vested in the startup world and really privileged to help guide you guys through this competition tools training and the like. First of all, I want to just simply thank our sponsors, P&G Ventures, Kroger, First Financial, North American Properties, and Vora Ventures, who have kind of sponsored this entire program for you all this summer. We appreciate their sponsorship and their efforts. And then also special thanks to all the Centrifuge people who are putting this on. Once again, lots of people behind the scenes helping out. Zaina today, this afternoon, is going to be helping me run the slides behind the scenes and all that. By the way, we've got a lot of interactive questions today, so be ready to answer some polls. And also make sure you can find your chat area, because I've got some chat questions for everybody to respond to too. So here's the agenda for today. We're going to go through just a couple reminders about some of the stuff we talked about last week about problem identification. And I'll kind of summarize some of the key points there. The majority of the time today, I'm going to talk about some tools for solving problems. So these are ideation tools and ways to look at problems so you guys can start building out your solutions. I've got some week 2 homework for you, and then we'll have Q&A. Also, this is being recorded. So you can get a copy of it later on. It might seem a little bit like a fire hose because we're going to go through a lot of information today. So feel free to come back to that. And then secondly, in the Q&A section, feel free to type in questions, and I'll stop throughout the presentation and discussion today to answer questions as we kind of go along. But that's basically what we're going to do today. And by the way, just for perspective, the problem identification piece, if you were at an accelerator or if you were in one of our university programs at Miami or UC or Xavier or any of the other great schools around, we might spend 4 weeks on problem identification. You guys did it in 1 week. This time we're going to spend 1 week on solution identification. We'd probably spend 3 or 4 weeks on ideation, and then another 3 weeks on how do you actually go test your ideas and evolve them. Because I can tell you right now, 99.9% of all the ideas you start with change over time through testing and all that. But because we're in this accelerated 5-week program, I'm going to give you some tools this week you can work on to solve your problems. And then next week, we're going to talk about how you actually go build a marketing plan and a business plan around those that overall solution. So today's all about talking about the problems you've identified and how do we go about solving those. Okay, so poll number 1. What best describes your week 1 efforts in identifying a problem to solve? There are a lot of problems to choose from. We picked a great problem to solve. I had fun working on my team. I hope we can come up with a solution to our problem. Or what was the week 1 assignment? Any one of those, which one fits best, do you think, for you? Go ahead and vote there. Couple more seconds. Everybody get your vote in. All right, let's close that poll and share the results. All right, so 48%, half of you, that's terrific. Half of got picked a great problem to solve. That's great. Number 2's choice was there are lots of problems to choose from, and there were. We're going to kind of share some of those. For those of you who didn't know what week 1 assignment was, please catch up this week because we're going to have week 2 assignments coming up quickly. So good job, everybody. Okay, so moving right along here. As I talked about last week, a great idea can change the world. Tarek and Pete challenged you guys 2 weeks ago to really come up with some great ideas. And we talked last week about some of the companies who have come up with great ideas, such as Airbnb and Lime and Tesla and Snapchat, Robinhood, Uber. You guys also rattled off some interesting companies, and I just wanted to quickly talk about those in chat last week. You guys suggested some of these companies. I always love asking this question because there's always companies I have not heard of that are new. And so this is always a great way to kind of learn about new things out there. So Fit is a company that brings fitness to the work environment. Social Capital is a company that invests in companies who have both a social and a financial impact. Outdoor Voices is a clothing company focused on stylish clothes for the outdoors. Curology is a great company for solving skincare problems. Abigo, great, interesting company. They use beeswax to wrap food and keep it, fresh and not going stale, and it's using natural materials. Cotopaxi, or another car or wearable company. Ecosia, which I had not heard of, actually is a search engine, and they have advertising that they generate on there, but for every dollar they had put in advertising, they reinvest it back into trees and planting trees. So to date, they've planted, I believe, 65 million trees using the ad revenue they generate from there. And then Girl Boss is a community to really help support girls and the like. Oh, and then Allbirds, a company about shoes that are made from natural materials. So some great examples of companies that you guys know about. So now you've got a chance to create your own company. So let's talk about how we're going to get there. So first and foremost, last week we talked about entrepreneurs solve problems. That's what it's all about. We're going to be going out there and trying to solve problems. And as we talked last week, customers don't buy products. They buy solutions to problems. So you want to be thinking about, how do I develop a solution to the problem we've identified? How do I develop a solution? Don't fall in love with what the product is. Fall in love, did I actually come up with a solution to the problem I was trying to solve? Just a couple review of some tools. I want you to kind of keep these tools available, or the work from these tools available, because you guys spent some time doing some fishbone diagrams. I saw several of them. Nice job on those. That information will be helpful to you as you do your ideation potentially on your problem. Likewise, you did a value proposition map. That also may be very helpful to you. So think about keeping that tool available for you. And then we created some how might we's, where we had lots of different how might we's, and you guys got down to 2 specific problems. So those are the 3 tools that we used last week. So I want you to kind of keep that work available to you. It may help as you kind of move forward in the solution process as we go forward. Okay, so some key things to remember from week 1. Make sure you have a good problem to solve. I'm going to share those problems in a second. And you want to be asking yourself, is this problem worth solving? Do many people have the problem? Would somebody be willing to pay to solve the problem? I think you guys came up with some great problems. I think the answers are yes there. Number 2, keep the work from week 1 into week 2, and feel free to pull that back out. And then 3, be ready to fall in love with solving the problem, not building the product or service. We really want to solve the problem overall. So what I want to do now is share some of the problems. You guys were really good at identifying the problems. Now, what I did is I rewrote some of your problems to simplify them, to get them into 1 sentence if I could. So please, I wasn't trying to change your problem per se. I just really tried to rewrite it in a more concise way. And what I want to do is I want to share the first 8 teams' problems. Now we're going to do a quick poll, and you get to vote on which team you think has the best problem to solve. And by the way, you can vote for your own team. And then we're going to show the next 8 teams. There's 16 teams. So I just want to share these. I think it's kind of interesting, the problems you guys came up with. So team 1, and everybody pretty much has 2 problems. Team 1 says how they want to help students become more engaged in online classes so they develop a deeper interest in coursework, or they want to help socially conscious individuals learn about social issues around the globe so they can be proactively involved. Team 2, find a better solution for standardizing the recycling process and educating consumers. or help people find a mental health therapist who's affordable, accessible, and holistic in their approach. Typo on holistic, it looks like on my end. Team 3, help high school teachers better organize resources and assignments so students can feel more on top of their classes. And they want to help high school students get help and feedback so they can better connect with students who need it. Team 4, help students in low-income neighborhoods get access to musical lessons and opportunities, or help the service industry companies stay open and make profits during the current pandemic. Team 5, distribute food and Facebooks to the homeless, further prevent the spread of COVID-19, or help impoverished and find jobs and work experience so they have a better chance to find a way to get out of their situation. I'm going to do the next two teams, and I'm going to have you guys vote. So look through those quickly for a second. I'll flash back in a second. Okay, Team 6, they want to make masks more efficient, and they want to increase voter turnout in America. And then Team 8, they want to make affordable, accessible cleaning products during the pandemic, or promote sustainability via minimal package and waste. Now, we could only have eight choices in a poll, so I would have all 16 of you guys in the same poll, but we're going to vote on teams 1 through 8. Which problem do you like best? And you can't vote for your own problem. So I'm just going to hold there for a second. And we're going to post the poll here in a second. So look through those. Which one do you like best of team 1 through 8? Okay, Zaina, go ahead and throw up the poll and let's let everybody vote. Don't vote for team 7, they're disbanded. Which team did you like the answer the best? Okay, go ahead and close that poll. Let's see who jumped to the top. All right, team 2 with the slight lead. Okay, so let's see which one that was. That was help a better system for standardizing recycling process and educating consumers, and help people quickly find a mental health therapist who's affordable, accessible, and holistic in their approach. Okay, let's look at teams 9 through 16. Okay, team 9, create an urban environment that is run by clean energy. Team 9 also, create a waste management system that intercepts pollutants before they reach marine environments. Team 10, I know you guys got a problem. We just didn't receive it in time to put it in the poll. Team 11 wants to reduce plastics in the ocean that are endangering marine species, as well as solve the lost income from the cancellation of sports in cities. Team 12, help people feel less stressed when working from home, help increase emphasis on self-care and mental health during the pandemic, allow people to protest peacefully without fearing for their lives. Team 13, make therapy resources widely available during the pandemic to help people feeling isolated, stressed out, and anxious, and help improve the hiring process of companies to eliminate racial imbalance and promote diversity, eliminating personal and societal biases against candidates. Team 14 wants to help small business learn about waste management so they can reduce their environmental footprint. Team 14 also provides students with safe access to programming and socialization. Team 15 provide better access to online and hybrid education courses to poor people who lack access to technology, and provide reliable and relatable news content that is free of political or any kind of bias. And once again, Team 16, we didn't get your submission in time. Okay, so once again, you're going to vote for Team 9 through 16. Don't vote for 9 or 10 because 9 or 6 teams, we don't really know what they are. So this is the second part of the poll. So you're going to go down to choices 9 through 16. Pick one of those. You have to page down a little bit to get there. You can pick any one of those, 9 through 16. All right, let's close that poll out, Zena. Let's see, page down here to get those results. There we go. So it looks like Team 13, making therapy resources widely available to pandemic, as well as improve the hiring process of companies to eliminate racial imbalance and promote diversity. All right, here's the deal, guys. You guys all have great problems. I just really wanted to share this because I thought it was really cool how you guys worked on this past week. Now the fun part is, how do we actually find solutions to some of these problems? And I know, I'm sure several of you have been already thinking about that, but that's what the rest of today is going to be about. Let's go on here. Okay, so find your chat box, because we're going to be using chat a number of times. And by the way, so chat is, if you slide over the bottom of your, the bottom of your, I get mine up here, at the bottom of your screen, you can answer the questions and all that stuff as we go through this. So my first question to you is, 1 second here. What's the difference between inventors and entrepreneurs? Type that in chat. What's the difference between inventors and entrepreneurs? Let's see what you come up with. Inventors invent, entrepreneurs capitalize upon their inventors. Inventors do more products, entrepreneurs sell them. Interesting, good. What else? The idea of an inventor is sold to a business where an entrepreneur becomes the business. Entrepreneurs are solving a problem. Inventors can create useless tech with no market. Inventors create a new thing, just a discovery. Entrepreneurs create things not only as discoveries, but also as a tool for society and business. You guys are on the right pathway. Good answers. Investors build some, or excuse me, inventors tend to build something amazing. Usually they come up with amazing inventions. The difference though is entrepreneurs build something amazing, but people also buy it. So the key thing without being a good entrepreneur is, how do you build something that's amazing that people will buy? And that's another way to say, how do we solve problems? Okay, just building something amazing is not good enough. Building something that people will pay for or somebody will support. And by the way, when I say people pay for, if you guys are working on a nonprofit idea, it doesn't necessarily mean that people pay for it, but it means that people may donate to the nonprofit to help support it because they believe in the cause. Or it might mean some government agency may get behind it and support it. The whole idea though is somebody's willing to invest money behind the idea because it's worthwhile. Okay, so here was an interesting invention. Everybody recognize what that is? It's been around for about 10 years, believe it or not, or at least 7 or 8. Those are Google Glasses, an absolutely amazing invention. You could actually see maps on them. You could do spreadsheets on them. You could search the web. I mean, the most amazing things you could do with this invention called Google Glasses, and they came out with about 7 or 8 years ago. The problem was people didn't want to wear them because you looked like this. You know, it wasn't something that people really liked wearing. And so as amazing as the invention was, it never really sold. Now they're on version 2 of it and you can still buy them out there and the like, but it has never been a big success, even though it's an amazing invention. So there still needs to be work to be done because nobody wants to look like this guy. So I want to play a game right now. So once again, get ready for some polls and some chats, but let's play a game and I'm going to give you a choice. Everybody gets to play in this game. And I'm going to give you a choice of what do you want to play for. And I have 2 prizes. You have your choice of playing for one of these 2 prizes, and I'm going to give you a choice of what you want to play for. Okay, so the first one is, I bought a Mega Millions lottery ticket. The lottery is tomorrow. The jackpot is worth $91 million. So that could be your prize. That's one option for what you want to play for your prize. But I've got another choice for you too. I also have a quarter. And basically you can play for either the lottery ticket or 25 cents. Now I want to give you a little bit more information. If you actually take the value of winning $91 million and then apply the odds and the chances of winning, plus deduct the taxes you'd have to pay if you won, that lottery ticket is actually worth about 9 cents. That quarter is worth 25 cents. So the quarter is actually worth more than the lottery ticket. I'm going to give you guys a choice of what you want to play for. You can play for either one, but that's what we're going to do. We have a game and you're going to play for either one as a prize. Which one do you want to play for? Okay, everybody vote. You can choose whichever prize you want. Or if you can't decide, just say I'm too indecisive. All right, let's see what we came up with. Close the poll. So 59% of you want to play for $91 million of the lottery ticket. 32% of you, the quarter, and 8% of you can't decide or you're too indecisive. Well, first of all, for those of you who can't decide, you're too indecisive, guess what? Entrepreneurs are decisive. So push yourself forward, because in the world of entrepreneurship, you need to make decisions, sometimes with uncertainty. So the rule number one of being a good entrepreneur is try to become more decisive. Okay, why did 59% of you pick the lottery ticket? The quarter's clearly worth more. 32% of you picked that. But why did some of you pick the lottery ticket? Okay, so type in the chat, why do people pick the lottery ticket? Why do more people pick the lottery ticket? Go ahead and type in the chat. What's the reason why 59%, 6 out of 10 of you picked the lottery ticket? Why is that? Chance at winning more money. Entrepreneurship is about taking risks. Easy money. The opportunity outweighs the cost. There's a chance to win more. A quarter's not impressive because it has the potential to be worth more money. Even if I lose, it's a small lose. High risk, high reward. You can make more. What else? Why else would so many people pick the lottery ticket? Quarters get lost. They're not useful on their own. We don't buy the lottery ticket. 25 cents is a negligible payoff. The lottery ticket has a higher upside. Depends on risk. So a lot of you went down the risk pathway. The biggest thing is, it's the opportunity. It's the hope. It's the idea, the concept, the excitement that you could win $91 million. That excitement is what people buy. And what's key to understand about this, get my slide moving here forward, is customers' decisions are driven by emotions. And you want to create products that customers buy, and you need to understand their emotional journey. A lot of you were excited about the opportunity to win $91 million. That excitement, that hope, that emotion underneath it all was what drove a lot of you to choose that. And we are selling things that drive people's emotions and solve problems. So as you're working on your solutions, make sure at the end we're selling lottery tickets and not quarters. People will buy lottery tickets, i.e. things that are emotionally driven by that, things that solve problems. And that's what our solutions need to be about. Okay. By the way, what I've decided I'm going to do also too is I will give a lottery ticket to each person who's on the winning team. So when we do the pitch contest on August, I think it's 9th, I think it is. Whatever day that is, the pitch contest, which I think is the 9th, I will give a winning lottery ticket to everybody on the winning team, okay? I don't know if it's going to win, but I will get you an actual live lottery ticket to give to each one of you. So congrats to anybody who gets there. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, we're now going to move into problem solving and creative ideation. I'm going to give you lots of tools to think about. I'm going to demonstrate how to use some of these tools. I also want to give you some coaching tips also ahead of time. And I'll go through these. And once again, this will seem a little bit like a fire hose because we have a lot of information to go through. But first of all, let me start with some tips. I want to make sure you understand the problem. So make sure you guys clearly talk about the problem you're trying to solve and seek to understand it. You did a lot of work this past week on it. Just make sure you're all starting from the same starting point and you kind of have some consensus on what the problem definition is. 2 is You guys are in groups of diverse people on purpose. Ideation works a lot better in teams. It works a lot better with diverse teams. It works a lot better when people build upon each other's ideas. So we purposely got you in teams. It's about lots of ideas. So as you go through the ideation stage, I want you to spend most of your time just generating ideas. No idea is a bad idea. And then at the end, you'll cultivate and figure out what are your best ideas. But I wanted you to keep pushing through and generate lots of ideas. While you're going through the ideation process, it's really easy to critique other people and judge people's ideas. You don't want to do that for two reasons. One, it's going to slow you down. You're not going to get enough ideas. And two, is it really hurts the creative process. Don't judge ideas. Don't say, I don't think that can be done, or how would you possibly do that? Just simply let the idea flow out there and build upon ideas. And later on, we'll figure out how we're going to go curate those ideas. The emphasis here is on quantity. You want to make sure you're listening to everybody's ideas. Your idea does not need to be fully fleshed out. You might have a germ of an idea where you haven't figured totally out how it's going to work, but part of it is pretty good. So put it on out there. You want to build upon each other's ideas and find ways to capture ideas on paper. Now, I'm talking paper in the sense of virtual paper for us, since we're all working virtually. But you want to really capture as much of this stuff visually as you can. Once again, the whiteboard tools that I showed you last week, or simple PowerPoint can work on a lot of this stuff too. So those are some quick tips. I'm going to give you some additional tips and reemphasize some of these in a second here. But let's go through a little bit about how problems are solved. So often problems are solved by an invention. We talked about inventors, coming up with cool stuff. Sometimes it's just simply a product improvement of a service. Sometimes it's a brand new business model, or sometimes it's applying new technologies. And these are how companies get created. And sometimes it's all four of these things, but sometimes it's just one of these things. So I want to just go through a couple different ways problems are solved and go through some examples here. So I think I've got another poll coming up. Okay, so here's a poll. Now, make sure you answer this question right. So actually, this is not a poll. Actually, this is going to be a chat box. In chat, I want you to write, what's the most important invention or new technology in the last 10 years? So I'm not necessarily talking about a company. I'm talking about an invention or a new technology. And go ahead and type that into chat. What's the most important invention or new technology in the last 10 years? And let's see what everybody came up with here. All right. The smartphone, good. Uber is really not an invention. Artificial intelligence, yes. Venmo is not really an invention. Smartphone, good. Robotic surgery, good. What are some other inventions? AI, good. Artificial intelligence, great. Any other ones? Automated manufacturing. Voice activation, 3D printer. Great examples. High-speed internet. We're about to hit 5G technology. Those are all great examples of inventions and technology that's being improved. So, here's kind of the history of some of the world's best inventions. These are things that dramatically changed the world, and they weren't anything like it around beforehand. These things are hard to come up with. The first airplanes in 1903 by the Wright brothers, the light bulb, the telephone, the steam engine, the printing press, paper, the World Wide Web. Those are truly inventions. These don't come around very often, and they're really hard to go do. And even the people who invent them aren't necessarily the people who win by them, but they're important things to look at. So as we think about inventions, that's the group that we want to be thinking about of some of the things that are out there. But we're not going to try to get you guys to create inventions in the next week. That's obviously not going to happen. But there also are kind of the next step. There's product improvements. So, the iPhone was a great potentially invention, or you can even look at it as a product improvement. We had, the first mobile phones we had used to be in a bag. I mean, I know most of you are not even old enough, used to carry around your mobile phone in a bag that was the size of a purse. Then we got to flip phones down the road and Blackberries. And then we got to this cool thing, the iPhone, where actually the screen became the touchboard. And that was a great product improvement. Apple's really great at doing product improvements. We went from the Walkman to the Discman, which had a CD in it, to the iPod, to potentially down the road, imagine literally having a wristband that really has all your music on it, and it directs directly to your AirPods. You know, and AirPods has probably been the greatest product improvement recently. And then look at the history of the coffee maker. I mean, coffee makers have evolved tremendously, you know, over the years. You know, there's iterations and iterations, and the same thing with TV sets. But, you know, the TV set initially came out, and then we just made it better and better and better. So product improvements are also an important way that we solve problems. Inventions are dramatic ways. Product improvements are kind of incremental ways. The third thing we kind of go do is we come up with new business models. And interesting enough, every company up here, and you guys all have know probably most of these companies, they really didn't invent anything. And they also they made some product improvements, but most of the stuff they did was all about new business models. Amazon had a new business model for selling books, and they put it on the web, and now they're selling everything on the web. StubHub gave you a new way to sell tickets, resell tickets. You don't have to go down to a scalper. You can sell them online. Expedia put a whole generation of people out of business, and travel agents. They replaced the travel agent by digitizing the travel booking process. Airbnb is now competing with Hilton and Marriott in the hotel business. Netflix had two different incremental new business models. First, they started by, how do I mail DVDs directly to consumer's house, as opposed to Blockbuster, who you have to go pick them up from. And then eventually they became one of the leaders now in streaming media, as you all know. Uber, you know, has kind of challenged the taxi business with a whole new business model. DoorDash is doing new things with delivery, and Uber Eats and everybody else in that space. And then here's the local one, Everything But the House. Everything But the House gives you a way that if you have to sell a bunch of things in your house because let's say your grandmother dies, they'll literally come in and inventory everything and put it all online and help sell that for you and make it super easy. And then Venmo, a whole new way to pay. None of these really were new inventions by any means. Some of them you might say were product improvements, but they're really new business models. New business models is the way a lot of companies are growing today. So you guys have every bit the capability of applying new business models. And a lot of these companies also apply some of the latest technologies. And that's where this excitement is for you guys. You guys are in the midst of this amazing technology burst of all these technologies that are coming out and changing the world. And so we've got virtual reality and 3D printers and 5G internet and electric cars, and we can take people's genetic DNA and reprogram it, and all sorts of artificial intelligence and environmental things and drone technology. All these are new technologies that really are enablers for businesses. And so these are the things you also could be thinking about. How do I grasp onto a new technology and potentially apply it to my business idea? So we've got business models, we've got new technologies, new ways of doing things. Those are all possibilities for solving problems and all that stuff. But that's kind of how a lot of entrepreneurs start also too, is they think about, okay, what are some of the latest business models? What are some of the technologies? What are some ways I can reapproach age-old problems and find new ways to solve them? So as you guys are working on creating a solution, first of all, I can tell you this is hard work. It's really hard work when we also tell you to do it in a week. Okay, but it's going to be really hard to go do this, but I know you can do it. It is perfectly okay to search and reapply. If there's another company that is got a business model or an idea that is, you know, similar to or can solve the problem you're trying to solve, and you can search and reapply it to your specific issue, go for it. I mean, if Airbnb triggers an idea of how you can go solve, you know, getting masks out to the homeless, do it. You know, think about it. I mean, it's perfectly okay to search and reapply. I can tell you 1 week is a very short time to solve a problem. I know you're fully capable of it though. And don't worry about figuring out all the elements of your solution. Next week, Chris Welter is going to join us next week, is going to talk through how you identify all the elements of your solution and begin flushing that out. We don't need to get everything figured out in the next week, but I want you in the next 7 days to come up with your basic solution. And all those things are true, but I know you guys can kind of work through creating a solution. So let me go through some more brainstorm rules, and then we're going to jump into some of the tools. Okay, so first of all, deferred judgment. I think I talked about that before. We really want to make this all about building and creativity. Wild ideas are great. The more wild ideas, the better. I want you to really think out of the box. Build on the ideas of others. Make sure you guys are staying focused. You guys, I know you're all busy. use your time wisely, stay on topic and stay focused. Listen to each other, one conversation at a time. You know, you're going to be online. Make sure you're talking to each other and listening to each other. Try to be as visual as you can. Sometimes a little sketch or a diagram can really help bring your idea to life. And once again, go for quantity. I want you guys thinking about lots of different ideas. Cluster those ideas together. Feel free to like mash them together. You're going to have a bunch of ideas. I mean, I want you to get to as many as over 100 ideas that you can kind of mash together and then figure out which ones you're going to pull from and pull together and the like. And you want to find the best elements of each idea. And once again, visual helps. So drawing out ideas, finding a picture that helps you explain an idea, do a diagram, mash it up, any way you can do to bring your idea alive. Okay, let me just, I think I want to stop here. Okay, so I'm going to go through homework week number 2, tell you what you're going to go do. Then we're going to get into the techniques. But let me just, I want to check the Q&A here. Go ahead and type in any questions that anybody has. Let's make sure we're, okay, I've got no questions right now. Does anybody have any questions they want to pose to me? All right, okay. Well, let's keep going then. And we're going to start to go through some of the techniques now for ideation. Okay. Here are, and by the way, there's lots of techniques for ideation or brainstorming. I'm going to take you through a number of different examples of how to go do each of these things. And I want you to actually try to use each of these tools if you have the time. The first 3 I'm going to take you through are actually individual exercises. So much like last week, where I had each of you go out individually and identify problems, I want you to also go out individually and do these exercises. And then the mind mapping, reversing assumptions, scamper, and analogies will be more of team exercises overall. Okay, so let's go through the first ones here. Okay, so first is jumpstart your brain. So we have an amazing entrepreneurial system here. I don't know if Doug Hall is going to be a guest speaker for you guys this next 2 or 3 weeks. He may have been. I can't remember your schedule, but Doug is an entrepreneur and he focuses specifically on ideation and creativity. And he's written a number of books and he's got a place called Eureka Ranch. One of his first books right there is Jumpstart Your Brain. The new edition is the one on the right there. But he really started perfecting the idea of ideation. He worked at P&G same time I was there. He came up with this interesting equation for what ideation is about. And it was E equals S plus BOS to the F power. And basically what that stood for is Eureka being a great idea, you could get by adding stimulus to your own brain operating system and have a lot of fun with it at the same time, taking it to the fun power. So he created a lot of different ideation techniques and stimulus ideas. I'm going to just go through a couple examples of the kinds of things that Doug has suggested. He actually does a 2-day session with a lot of big companies where he brings in trained brains and other people from the company to do ideation. They spend 48 hours immersing themselves in ideation, and they usually come up with about 10 great product ideas by the end of the 2-day period. And he does it all in his place called Eureka Ranch out in the east side of town. But anyway, I'm going to just share with you a couple of the techniques and ideas here. So these are individual exercises that you can do on your own. And you're going to start by really making sure you understand the problem you want to solve. Oh, by the way, so I know a bunch of you identified 2 problems. So a couple choices here. Choice number 1 is you can focus the ideation totally on your number 1 problem. If you think you've got a clear number 1 problem you want to solve, put all the ideation around that. If you're unsure and you're kind of feeling, boy, we like both of our problems, it's perfectly okay to put your ideation towards both sets of problems. At the end of next week, we need to get you focused on 1 problem, 1 solution, but you can apply the ideation techniques to more than 1 problem. It potentially is twice as much work, but it may lead you in different pathways and the like. But you want to get to 1 problem, 1 solution by the end of next week. And you can have your choice of which way you want to go about doing it. So let's assume for now, everybody picks 1 problem to focus on that they really like. Here's basically what the exercises are going to be like. So first individual exercise. Okay, this is called hitchhiking. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. Think of it as you're going to hitchhike around and talk to people. I want you to take a walk, and this could be a virtual walk or it could be a literal walk. You might walk through your neighborhood. You might walk through your social media page and look at your friends. You might thumb through your contact list on your phone. You might walk through the grocery store. But the key is I want you to interact with some common sense people and talk to them a little bit about your problem and get their initial feel for how they would go about solving it or what they think about the problem and what might solve it. So basically, we're just looking for you to talk to some initial people about your task. Tell them about the problem you're trying to solve. Ask them for their top of the head, off the cuff, spur of the moment, common sense answer. No, this is not an assignment for them to go think about. I just want you to explain the problem you're trying to solve and say, how might you solve it? What do you think about that problem? And just simply, most of those people are going to be happy to help. Okay, now don't go through the grocery store and sneak up on 10 people from, on the side. But you can literally walk through the grocery store and stop people randomly. Or you can walk through your neighborhood and talk to your neighbors. Or look down your social media page and find some people and then reach out and pick up the phone and call them. By the way, don't try to do this via social media and email and text and all that stuff. Pick up the phone and have a conversation. You will get so much more out of that than electronic contact. So I want you to have some conversations. Okay, tell them the problem you're trying to solve, and then I want you to listen really carefully about what they say initially. This only has to be a 2 to 5 minute conversation, or at least 2 to 5 minutes of their answer. Let them just simply supply what they think about it, okay? Often, they're gonna give you a new way to even think about your problem. They may reframe your problem in a different way. They may give you a snippet of a potential answer. They may give you a new way to think about the solution. And I want you to do 5 to 7 conversations with different people. Now, the interesting thing about this exercise and all these ones I'm going to take you through, you guys may say, oh my gosh, that's never going to work. I don't want to do that. These kinds of things work. I want you to try them. Part of the reason you're in this course this summer is to learn new things. I want you to go through this. Try this out. This one is absolutely amazing. I've seen it work multiple times in the past where I just wind up having a conversation with somebody and just, even though they have no idea exactly about what the problem is about, they've got a general gist of it and I explain it to them and they often give me a new insight that I had never thought about. So go through the process and do the hitchhiking exercise. So this is one of the individual exercises I'm going to have you do before your next group meeting. Okay. Number 2 is called Stimulate Me. Okay. And this is all about bringing stimulation in that will help promote ideation. So often when you get outside stimuli and you're thinking about a problem, sometimes by matching up something you see or hear with the idea that you're thinking about or the problem you're trying to solve will push you in directions you can't possibly think about. And outside stimuli really help. And once again, this is one of those things that I can tell you absolutely works. So we're going to basically give you 2 sets of stimuli options here. I've got a couple different ways that you can go about doing this. You're going to look at the stimuli and rifle through the various different examples. And then I want you to have a set of index cards or a piece of paper. And I want you to write down any of the stimuli that start relating to your problem, where all of a sudden you see something and, oh, wow, that's kind of interesting. Okay, so the first one is, let's see if I can do this one right. I think I can open this up on my thing and you guys can see this. I want to make sure I can share this. Okay, so give me 1 second, make sure I got my technology working. All right, can you guys see the random word generator right now? Is that showing up?
I don't see it.
Okay, all right, give me 1 second here then, okay. I just got to share a different screen. 1 second here. Okay, here we go. Okay, this is the random picture generator. I gave you this link, and basically you can pick a number of pictures to share, and I think you can pick up to 40 and it'll randomly show pictures. So right now I put in 40 and I started saying generate random pictures. I'm going to look at these random pictures and I'm going to think about my problem, and then it may generate an idea. Okay, so let's make my problem that I'm somehow trying to solve the takeout problem for restaurants and how we can help them build a better takeout business. Okay, now I'm going to start to generate pictures. And okay, horses. Oh, horses are delivery, so maybe there's some unique way for delivering the products locally. Not sure what that picture is of. Oh, actually, these are actually this page all down. That's right. Okay, so we got a runner. We've got this cage piece, a woman dressed up driving. Oh, maybe so we can make some really interesting local drivers that we can dress up and put in unique cars so that when we deliver our product, everybody in the neighborhood sees us delivering our product in these unique cars with unique uniforms, and our delivery service stands out, and that's going to help drive our takeout business. A ship sinking doesn't do anything. Oh, pizza. Oh, okay. Beautiful picture of pizza. Okay, maybe we need to take all of our great items for takeout and create wonderful pictures of how they look fresh out of the oven, or just as we're about to serve them, and make sure we've got great pictures of each of our takeout items. Windmills, funky stick face here, a house. Let's see here, skywalk. Kind of interesting piece there. Oh, okay, couple reading to each other and all that stuff. Well, that made me think of, okay, maybe we can do takeout, and maybe it's all about, we can do special takeout meals for couples. And how can we do romantic takeout meals for couples? Okay, so that's how I used a bunch of pictures from this exercise. And I just went down through them, and I randomly stopped at some pictures that kind of triggered an idea. That's what I want you to go do. Use these picture exercises or picture suggestion stimuli, if you will, to come up with, get back to my piece here. Okay, so here's what I've got for you is you've got two random word generators, or photo generators, excuse me. I've got two random image generators right there. There's links right there. There are two different ones. They'll generate different pictures for you. Another way you could do it is you could thumb through some magazines. By the way, I know some of you don't know what magazines are. Ask your parents what a magazine is if you don't know what one is, but I'm being serious. Thumb through magazines and use pictures from the magazine. You could walk through a mall or a department store and look at different products. Here's a random word generator. The bottom line is I've got lots of different stimuli options. So here's how it works. Think about your problem, use a couple of these different stimuli options, and then see what ideas randomly it generates for you. By pushing stimuli in, you will come up with unique and different ideas that you haven't thought about yet. Okay, so I want you to go through that exercise. That's exercise number 2 as an individual. Okay, third individual exercise called Don't Sell Me. Okay, this goes back to a little bit about what we talked about with the lottery ticket. So Don't Sell Me is based upon the premise that people hate to buy things. What people really want is to have their basic needs and desires satisfied. And people do buy on emotions. So we want to think about what is their emotional journey. And this, once again, ties back to the lottery case ticket. So it asks you 0 in the intangibles. It's more about implications and less about the task itself. So examples, don't sell me a new COVID mask. Sell me a beautiful garment that protects my health. Don't sell me a recyclable receptacle. Sell me products that protect my grandchildren's future. Don't sell me I'm making a financial donation. Sell me how I'm investing in my neighborhood's well-being. I want you to take the product side of it out of this and think about the emotional side. What's the emotion you guys are trying to sell with your solution? What's the feeling you want people to have? How can you frame that into a don't sell me question? And I think what you'll do is I want you to identify a couple different emotions that are related to your solution, to what you're trying to get to, and really write down one of these don't sell me statements, okay? And I think you'll come up with some different things. So, don't sell me a COVID mask, sell me a beautiful garment that protects my health. If I think about it that way, well, that's interesting. Well, maybe what we'll do is we'll create a set of 5 masks with a range of colors that coordinate with different color outfits. Or maybe we'll create some masks that have photos of beautiful landmarks in Cincinnati so we can remind people of how we're trying to protect our community and keep everybody safe in this wonderful city. Or maybe we'll have a reclamation product where donors can designate their donations towards key focus areas and then be enrolled in this online community that solves problems and shares updates on their efforts. All those get to emotional feelings. All those get to things that make me feel really good in a different way. And those are ways that will kind of trigger some, once again, some new ideas for you. One idea, per thing you want to kind of write down, create lists of ideas, get a stack of Post-it notes, put an idea on a Post-it note, whichever way is best to organize it. But all three of these exercises should generate lots of ideas. Each of you can probably come to your first meeting with 10 to 15 ideas just by going through these three exercises. So the first step of homework is individually, I want each of you to go through exercises 1, 2, and 3 and bring some ideas to your first group meeting. Have some ideas to start with. And you can probably start that group meeting by talking about some of those ideas. Okay, the next set of ideas or tools to be done as a group. Okay, once again, we're going to go through these fairly quick, and then I'll ask for Q&A kind of at the end. And once again, this is all recorded, so if I'm going too fast, you should be able to get back and see the recording. Okay, mind mapping. Mind mapping is a technique. It really starts with a central question, and then you build out key elements of the product or service. And we create multiple branches of words that capture different thoughts, and then we use that mind map, that visualization of all this process, and combining words and thoughts on a mind map. So let me just show you a couple examples, and I'll bring it to life. And when you see these, and once again, the Miro tool set, if you've used that already, has got a template in there for mind mapping. Okay, so here's a couple different examples of mind mapping, and then I'm going to bring it right home at the very end with the fourth one. So I've got 4 of these to show you. So imagine your company sells hats, and you don't have any unique hat offerings, and sales are going down. You want to invent a great new wow hat offering. And so what you might simply do is say, okay, our goal is ideas for hat offerings. And we're going to take 2 related stimulus and say sun rays that can damage your skin is related, and hats are noticed more than any other fashion item. And 2 unrelated stimulus, Statue of Liberty and giraffes. And now my goal is brainstorm as many different hat ideas as I can using these stimuli. This could generate lots of interesting ideas. So, how can I create a hat that would be really cool about blocking the sun? Or how can I create fashionable hats that really stand out? How can I think about a giraffe to go build cool hats? Maybe my hats are all about animals. I have different animal hats. Or, Statue of Liberty is kind of, maybe it's a hat, and maybe there's also something I can carry with me too. And I've got matching apparel with my hat. All sorts of different ways there. Okay, another example. Birthday. You might try to think about I want to put together a whole birthday celebration for my friend or my sister or my brother. Well, you might start with birthday and then start mapping out. Well, first of all, ideas. I come up with some ideas. I have to have a theme. Well, maybe Halloween, maybe Valentine's Day. I got to think about activities, and I map out some of the words to go with that. I think about when my birthday is. I think about the party and all the pieces to that. I think about gifts and all the people like that. I think about the location. All of a sudden now I've got a bunch of words on here that I can potentially mix and match and put together to kind of create a solution. Here's one on water. Just the concept of water. It's got various different states. Rain waters plants. H2O is kind of a combination of 2 atoms. It has lots of uses. It comes from the ocean, and the ocean goes into the seas and the lakes. And there's salt water and fresh water. Now all of a sudden I've mapped out water, and I've got lots of potential ways to think about water and maybe how to solve my problem around water. Let me take it home with this last idea to really show you how it could apply to something. And I just built this one last night. So how might we develop a more successful takeout business? So I started by simply mapping out, okay, what are my types of customers at a restaurant? Well, I've got groups of friends. I've got big families, young couples, weekly regulars, my neighborhood locals, my senior citizens. My employees, I've got my servers, my bartenders, hostess, cook, and chef. I've even got some employees who can't even work for me right now because I don't have enough business. I've got meals and hours. I've got dinner, lunch, late night, weeknights, weekends. I've got ordering and delivery. I can do Grubhub and DoorDash. I've got a website. I can do people picking things up. I can even sell them drinks because the government has said it's okay to sell them drinks. and take them with them. And I've got different kinds of food, appetizers, main dish, side dishes, desserts, specials, and specialty drinks. So I took a look at this mind map after I mapped all this up, and I said, okay, how can I develop a more successful takeout business? What things can I mix and match here and come up with some ideas? So here's 3 ideas that I came up with my mind map. So the first one is I said, you know what? I've got my chefs and cooks who love to cook specialty meals all the time. I've got a lot of people who live in the neighborhood who literally can walk to my restaurant. They're right around the corner. And by the way, weeknights is a really slow time for us. I would love to get my weeknight business up further. And I could create specials. So here's my idea. Twice a week, we're going to have a weekday dinner special the neighborhood locals can order and literally subscribe to. And they can come by and pick it up. So basically, I'm going to come up with a price for, I don't know, $25 a week. And you can come up and pick up 2 meals during the week between 6 and 7. It's going to be the same meal, one special thing the chef's going to cook that Tuesday night and it's something else on Thursday night. And you're basically in a subscription service to get a weekly special. And Tuesdays and Thursdays, you don't have to worry about cooking. I'm going to cook all those meals between, 5 and 6 o'clock when we're not that busy. You can come by and pick it up at 6 or 7. I know you're right around the corner and you can pick it up. And boy, what a great way to kind of try to grow my weekday business. So that's one idea I came up with. Here's another one. I said, okay, I got families, large groups of families. They eat a lot of dinner together. Oh, and by the way, when we talk about dinner, there's main courses and side dishes and desserts. And I've got this cool website. So let me create a family group meal for people of 8 or more with a main dish, some side dishes and desserts. I'm going to have the customers order on the website so they can see their different options. And so we're going to have 4 or 5 family meals. You can order a lasagna Italian meal or a meatloaf for 8. And I'm going to create some great family prices and make this affordable food option so your cost per person is less. But it's going to be probably $60 to come pick up a family dish, which is great for me because I can sell a whole family meal for $60, cook it all at once, usually ahead of time if you're going to order it, but it's very that affordable for people. It'll get people to come by once again, pick that up and pick up their main course, their side dish, and their desserts. One more. I've got some employees that are not working for me right now regularly. And late night, weekends, and weeknights are kind of good times to get things going. Oh, and by the way, I've got a lot of couples who come to my place. And I've got appetizers and main courses and desserts, even specialty drinks. And by the way, I can sell drinks now. I can sell alcohol. So let me create this option called the Romantic Dinner for 2 for young couples. And it's a complete meal at home, including cocktails and a bottle of wine. And you know what? I'm going to have that delivered and set up by some of those employees who I can't schedule to work because I don't have enough work in the restaurant, but I can have them deliver the product. And our goal is to set up and do 4 or 5 romantic dinners a night. And basically, we'll put everything together. We'll deliver it to your house. And so you and your significant other can have a romantic dinner. All 3 of those ideas came from the mind map. And all I was simply doing was picking and choosing different pieces and seeing how it could fit together. So that's how a mind map works. I think I saw a couple questions pop up. Let me just see where my Q&A is here. Okay. Would we be doing mind mapping in groups? Yes, I would rather have you do mind mapping in groups. And the Miro tools, go to Miro.com and you can find the Miro tools. We talked about that last week, but Miro.com, you can create up to 3 different whiteboards and it's a great tool to go use. So good questions there. Okay, keep pushing those questions in, but that's mind mapping. That's how I want you to do mind mapping. I want you to do that as a group. It's a really cool tool sometimes to come up with some really interesting ideas. Okay, moving on to the next tool. Okay, reverse assumptions. Okay, here's how this one works. List the assumptions about a certain subject or whatever your project's about. Challenge your fundamental assumptions by reversing them. Write down the opposite of each assumption and then ask yourself, how would you accomplish that reversal? And list as many useful viewpoints as you can. So once again, I'm going to give you a restaurant example. Suppose I wanted to start a brand new novel restaurant, something really unique. And by the way, you guys know restaurants. Restaurants are pretty, it's hard to come up with unique restaurants. We've got lots of good ones in town. But how do you want to come up with something really new and different? Well, let me make some assumptions about restaurants. One of the assumptions I might write down is, well, if I have a restaurant, I have to develop a menu, either written or verbal or implied. So that might be my assumption. But in step 3, how could I start a restaurant that doesn't have a menu of any kind? Oh my God, that sounds crazy. How could you do a restaurant without a menu? Well, let me think about that. If I reverse the thought about that, how can I operate a viable restaurant that doesn't have a menu? Well, here's an interesting idea. Imagine the chef would come to your table and he would display everything he bought at the meat market, the fish market, and the vegetable market. Everything he bought today at Findlay Market, and basically said, here's what I have. And then you as the customer would check off the ingredients that you like. The fact that you like lamb, or the fact that you like halibut, or that, zucchini you're a real fan of. And basically you pick the ingredients, and then the chef goes away and he actually creates a meal specifically based upon the ingredients. And we would call the restaurant the Creative Chef. How cool of an idea is that? And all I simply did was reverse the assumption about the business and really said, okay, let me put down all the assumptions. So the way you do this is put down all the assumptions around how you think things normally have to work about a solution like you're talking about, and then reverse it. So you might start with, okay, so we talked about, one of you had about how do we get more COVID masks to the homeless? Maybe make the assumption, what if every homeless person had COVID masks and their goal was to pass them out to people who didn't? Well, that's really interesting. How might that work? Where does that take you? What could that lead to? So what you want to do is take your idea, write down some of the key assumptions that you think are assumptions, and reverse them. Totally turn them upside down and see if that leads you in a direction that might come up with a solution. This one doesn't always work perfectly, but sometimes it works out beautifully. So reversing assumptions, that's another group exercise. Okay, next one. Once again, feel free to type in questions as we go along here. There's a tool called Scamper. I normally spend a lot more time on Scamper than I'm going to do here, but we're going to do it kind of quickly, but I think it'll get the general idea here. It's an acronym. Each of the letters stands for something different. So substitute, combine, adapt, modify, put to another use, eliminate, reverse. So all it is an acronym. I'll take you through what each of the pieces mean, and then this will help you then think about your idea. So once again, you're going to write down your idea or your problem and how maybe the problem is normally being solved. And you want to start thinking about then some of these questions to see if it generates a different solution for you. So for instance, substitute. As you think about how this thing is normally solved, is there anything you could substitute for any parts of the business that would give a more effective or affordable alternative? What could you substitute in that would somehow make things more affordable or more effective? What things could you pull entirely from the outside that people normally don't think about that all of a sudden would change things? Quite frankly, when you think about Uber kind of said, you know what, we don't need a taxi cab service, which is, a bunch of people answering phones and scheduling taxis. We could definitely put in an online service, which is a lot more effective and a lot more affordable and all that, and a totally different way to run a taxi cab service. Combine. Have you tried mixing two existing parts of your business together, where you literally bring two things together in a unique way? Transform. Could you transform the product to fill a gap in the market? Are there gaps in the marketplace where people really aren't using a product or products for a solution, and somehow you transform them to meet new people's needs? Could you modify the way the product or service is? Change its look, its form, its shape in unique and different ways. Put it to another use. Can the product or service be useful elsewhere? What other things could it be used for? How could you get a wider target audience? Is your product as streamlined as possible? Are there ways you can simplify it? Make it a lot simpler. And reverse. What would happen if you did the exact opposite of what you're doing? Would you get a different result? What things could you do to totally reverse things? So I want to encourage you, there's lots of good examples of these that are on YouTube. So go ahead and type in Scamper on YouTube. And then you'll see some examples and some people using the Scamper technique. And it talks about lots of these different tools. And these are just good questions to ask yourself as you guys are working together as a team. And think about these questions. And not each of these will apply. But think about the current solutions out there. Think about some of the solutions you're thinking about. And think about applying some of these Scamper questions back into your specific ideation process. Okay, the last tool. Analogies. Analogies are really interesting ways sometimes to totally solve problems in new ways. So the first step is you make up an analogy, and you make up an analogy that is either related or totally unrelated. So the steps you want to kind of ask yourself is, what's the current situation or opportunity remind you of? Is there anything that this problem reminds us of? Are there other areas of life or work experience that are similar to that? Who does similar things, but not in this specific area? So examples, running a business is like managing a theater production. Well, that's interesting because I am always selling and bringing customers in, and I have theater. So I'm going to write that down as my first analogy. Changing a tire is like putting shoes on. That sounds a little weird, but that's kind of true. You know, my shoes get me around, my tires get my car around. Okay, so that's a good analogy. I like that one. And selling to our customers is like being a secondhand car salesman. Well, maybe, yeah, we're selling to people and they don't really want to buy what we have, and we kind of feel like a secondhand car salesman. Okay, so that's a good analogy. So I'm going to write that one down. Then sometimes you just force analogies that are just totally unrelated. So you might say, our packaging is like an egg. And I'm going to write that down. And manufacturing a toy doll is like driving a tank. And advertising to customers is like cooking a meal. Those are totally unrelated. So I'm going to write those analogies down. Then you're going to kind of say, well, what do you do with that? Well, these analogies then become stimulus, and they'll bridge ideas from that. So let me show you some examples using each of these analogies where I might go. So I write all these analogies down, and then I go here. So running a business is like managing a theater production. Well, that's interesting. When I think about a theater production, it's split into two halves. There's usually an intermission. We've got the first part and the second part. Well, maybe I should be splitting my sales team. And maybe I have a pre-sales team, which really gets people ready to buy. And we need to also then put together a post-sales team and really have the people that do a better job of servicing. So I'm trying to do it all right now with one group. Maybe that would be a better idea. Or changing a tire is like putting shoes on. Well, I retie shoes when I feel like they're getting loose. Maybe we could put a car sensor in the car wheel that would alert the driver if the wheel was loose. And all of a sudden I've got a new safety device for my car. Selling customers is like being a secondhand car salesman. Well, secondhand car salesmen offer trade-ins and prices for old cars, right? What if we offered trade-ins for customers who aren't using our products, and they bring old goods from a competitor, and then we'll give them a discount if they change from the competitor's product to our product by bringing a trade-in. Packaging is like an egg. Well, you know what? The chick in the egg is slowly drains the white of the egg as it grows. What if we had packaging which virtually shows how long before its sell date by changing color with time? So all of a sudden there's some sort of bar on the package that would not just have the date, but actually over time would grow with time, and it would show how old the package is and how aged it is. Manufacturing a toy doll is like driving a tank. Well, tanks fire shells out of their cannons. Can we design a robot to shoot the head off so hard it can't come off again in the child's hands? Advertising to customers is like cooking a meal. People anticipate food if they can smell something nice. Could we somehow put smell into our product, and it's no purpose other than to recognize the upcoming excitement? So these last three are really crazy ideas, but the first three are really, interesting ideas. And it all starts with analogy. And all these analogies they're stimuli. They're basically idea starters for you to help begin thinking about what ideas could come up with. So once again, you want to kind of write out the analogies and then brainstorm around the analogies and do it in groups.
All these exercises work really well in groups overall. Okay, I saw a few questions pop up here. Let me see where we are in questions here. Okay, let's see. Oh, I thought I had a couple more. Okay, no more questions there. My bad. I thought we answered them all. Okay, let's move on here. Okay, so you're going to spend 90% of your time, working on the ideation techniques either individually or collectively. You're going to get to the point, hopefully next, Saturday, Sunday, where you have to kind of pick out, okay, where are we going with our solution? So I want you to look and identify, probably the best way to do this sometimes is, figure out maybe your best 5 or 10 solutions. 10 solutions is kind of a good place to start. Sometimes you can then mix and match some of those solutions together. But I want you to get to a final solution statement, which at the very least talks about how you're thinking about solving your problem. Okay, and here's a format I'm going to give you. It doesn't have to be exactly in this format, but the closer you get to it, the better it will help. This also will help you get through the next exercise starting next week, because next week we're going to give you some more time to think about how do you make your solutions work. But I want you to get to a basic solution statement by next week. So I'm going to give you some examples. So our product helps who? So the helps is like, who's it going to target, and what do they want to solve, and how does it do it by this and this? And the key features include 1, 2, or 3. I'm going to give you some examples. Okay, but things we're going to ask as we develop the solution statement: do we clearly identify the target audience? Are we solving a big problem? Have we stated clear benefits? Do we identify features of how it works? So let me show you some example solution statements. And I thought the best way to do this was basically showing you ones that Uber or Airbnb would write themselves. And this might have been how they started out their business as they were doing the brainstorming overall. So here's the solution statement that Uber might have written. Our Uber transport service, okay, that's the name of their business, helps who? People who need a taxi service. That's our target market. What's their problem? They want to quickly schedule, efficiently travel, and easily pay. That's the problem. And then how am I doing that? I'm doing it by providing a network of local professional drivers who can be easily ordered and paid for the one click of the Uber mobile application. That's a pretty simple solution statement. And then underneath it, I identified some key features, some other ways to explain how my product works. I've got one-click ordering. I've got a local fleet of vetted professional drivers. I've got fast response times. I have the ability for the user to track the route and estimate travel time before and during trip. They can pay via credit card. They can rate their driver. Now, in essence, in 2 paragraphs, I've got the essence of what my solution is going to be. I've talked about it and thought about it. Now, you may not be able to get to all these specific answers yet, but this is kind of where you want to get to. So you want to at least get to the first top part of this thing. You may not have all the features figured out, but you at least need to know what's the problem you're trying to solve and how are you trying to solve it. Let me show you another one. Airbnb. Our Airbnb service helps vacation travelers. Airbnb service of peace. Vacation travelers being the who, the target audience. Their problem: find affordable accommodations and learn about things to do in the area. That's their problem. How am I going to do that? I'm going to provide a network of diverse local accommodations at a fraction of the cost of local hotels with a local host who can recommend things to do in the area. It's that simple. The key features: I've got a wide variety of local locations listings in the area. I've got local vetted hosts and accommodations. I have an easy to use website to search and view properties and their features of that property. And I have the ability to read reviews of properties by previous guests. Okay, so that's my solution statement. Okay, so that's what you want to try to get to. Okay, that's where we're trying to get to by next week. We're going to go through a tool called Business Model Canvas, which will force you to kind of put things in boxes, and this will feed right into the Business Model Canvas. And you can continue to iterate these statements. So I want you to get to your first version of it by next Monday in time for the class, so you can take advantage of the Business Model Canvas piece. These are hard to kind of work on. Once again, this normally might take 4 to 6 weeks. But I want you to try to put a lot of work into this week and do the ideation of thinking about what your solutions might be. Okay, so let me summarize the homework for week 2. So first of all, you're going to go through and individually do the 3 jumpstart brainstorm exercises. So hitchhiker, stimulate me, and don't sell me. Each of you should individually do that and bring those ideas to your team meetings. Kick off your team meeting by reviewing and discussing the 1 or 2 problems you're trying to solve. Make sure you all understand that you're on the same page. Feel free to look at any of your previous work. I then want you to use the ideation tools, mind mapping, reversing assumptions, Scamper, and all the tools to really as a group and think about what you can come up with. You're going to identify potentially 100 different ideas. You're then going to have to kind of pick and start whittling that down. I might say, try to figure out the 10 best solutions to your problem. Identify what those are. But then even then, you can still mix and match and mash things together, because often things are kind of, take a part of this solution, a part of another solution. Okay, and try to come up with your best possible solution to your problem by next week. And that's what you want to come in with kind of that clear solution statement. What I will tell you is it's perfectly okay to come in next week with a solution statement, and you still have 3 more weeks to the pitch contest. You can iterate that if you need to. You may come up with some different ways to solve the problem. That's okay. I just want to make sure you've got a starting place next week of how you think you're going to solve the problem, and you can keep building as you kind of go through. That's where we're trying to get to. Okay, let me see what questions we have. Type in the Q&A any questions you have, please, and we'll go through those. Oh, wait a minute. Nothing here right now. Let me check chat. Okay, there is, by the way, Tarek is on again today. Amazing speaker, so don't miss him at 12 o'clock. Okay, does anybody have any additional questions? Anything else that they want to ask? Okay, last poll question. How excited are you to be in this program? Ramped up and ready to go. What did I get myself into? A bit nervous, but I'm glad to be here. Take no prisoners. All the other teams are playing for second. And by the way, you're going to win lottery tickets if that's the case. And I'm ready to change the world. Which one of those best describes how you're feeling right now? Everybody vote. All right, let's post those answers. Ramped up and ready to go. Nobody's asking what they got themselves in. That's really good. For those of you still nervous, don't worry about it. And a bunch of you are kind of ready to change the world, and everybody else is playing for second. Okay, hopefully today was helpful. Once again, I know I gave you a lot to go through in a very short period of time. Anybody have any final questions? All right, couple commercials. Don't miss Tarek here at noon. He's absolutely wonderful. And do not miss this P&G Signal event this week. I think it's from 9 to 2 o'clock on Wednesday and Thursday. It includes workshops also by the Centrifuge team. It's going to be an amazing 2-day experience, so don't miss that either. We'll see you guys all next Monday at 10 o'clock. I'll be here with Chris Welter, who's going to help me with Business Model Canvas. Have a great week. You guys all have your email at my email address too. Please email me if you have any questions. I'd be happy to help you if you feel like you're getting stuck and you don't know what to go do next. So everybody have a wonderful day, wonderful week, and we'll see you next Monday. Bye now.